So in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about why I think Inception Point are complete idiots.
Listeners, let's dive right into the latest and most effective money-making strategies that have emerged this week.
So that's a real podcast, created by Inception Point AI under their Quiet Please label. This is a company whose big idea is to replace real human creators with synthetic ones. Somehow, they think that's progress, and they're calling any critics ignorant Luddites. You're listening to Podcasting Insights with the Podmaster. I'm Neil Velio, the Podmaster, the human one. And today we're talking about the creative apocalypse that nobody asked for, namely AI-generated podcasts. I know what you're thinking. Neil, you use AI tools too. Yeah, I do. I use tools. I don't use sentient piles of algorithmic slop masquerading as podcast hosts. Now, with regards to how to make money, a podcast that has an AI-generated thumbnail made in ChatGPT, it's obvious, because ChatGPT just loves those little gold logos with the dollar signs in them. It's using an AI-generated voice, an AI-generated script, and it's published using AI-generated episode description notes. This show promises a guide on the art of how to make money. If I play you a clip, you're going to get an idea of what that sounds like.
Right now, starting your own business online is as accessible and lucrative as ever. Platforms like WAP and Map Academy have enabled university students to earn six figures by creating and selling online courses, including unique offerings like Fortnite map design. If you have specialized knowledge in any field, packaging it into educational modules can generate steady passive income.
Now, what Inception Point have done, and they're quite proud of this, is create hundreds of these synthetic hosts. It's no different from what you would get if you use Notebook LLM, or you had a conversation with ChatGPT that you then recorded and published. Who the hell wants to listen to a conversation with ChatGPT? There's a reason that we can tell that this stuff is completely artificial, even when we're having conversations with it. Our brain won't allow us to converse with it like we would a human. Now, each of these shows has a personality trained to sound relatable, but they don't actually feel anything. And that's kind of the point where all of this collapses. And I'm sorry, Janine, CEO of Inception Point, you can go on as many podcasts about podcasting, defending your product as you like, but here's a fundamental truth that you're not going to like. It's coming. Before I get to that, let's talk about Inception Point AI. They got podcasts about wellness, leadership, dating, spirituality, even some controversial people like Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. And it's all voiced by AI. All of it entirely disconnected from the thing that makes any of these topics worth listening to. See, the thing is, you can't fake scars. You can't fake failure. You can't fake knowing what heartbreak actually feels like, no matter how many language models you throw at it. Therefore, you can't relate to your target listener and all the emotions that they'll be experiencing while they're listening to you. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this here. I am not anti-AI. I use Descript. I love Orphonic. Hell, I probably have more conversations with ChatGPT about stuff than I've had with most of my extended family. But there's a difference between using AI as a tool and using it as a substitute for your soul. This AI personality trend kind of misses the entire point of podcasting. Podcasting works because it's human to human. It's your voice in somebody else's head. They hear your hesitation, your laughter, your awkward pauses, and that's building trust, that's building connection. So when you strip all that away, what you're left with is what I'm going to start calling Slopcasting. Low effort, zero empathy content designed to fill a feed rather than say anything meaningful. It's kind of the equivalent of when people used to sell those websites that would offer a link to you as part of your link building campaign that were literally blank pages with the links written in the same color font as the background of the page. In other words, just a bunch of keyword stuffing that was meant to fool Google into thinking your website had a decent link building strategy. And so this is the moment now, right now we're in it, that pivotal point where creators need to decide what kind of side of the line they're on. Yes, automation can help you edit faster. It can clean up your sound. But if you think it can replace you, you're kind of missing the point of what podcasting is. Because the very thing listeners come for, you, is the one thing that AI can never be. You. It can mimic your tone. It can't mimic your intention. It can sound confident, but it can't care. And this is exactly the part that Inception Point AI doesn't get, and the reason why Janine's going to hate me. Because they're selling you the illusion of authenticity, not the real thing. And they're telling you that this sort of stuff, it's just out there, so it's going to get audience, therefore you're going to make money from it. It's not how it works. And Janine, if you'd spent more than 5 minutes actually figuring out what podcasting is, rather than destroying the company you were once the CEO of, you might have realized this. But here's the real danger that I want to address in this episode. When audiences get used to this kind of empty, frictionless content, then everything else starts to get devalued. It starts to flatten. You can already hear it happening on TikTok. Every motivational video sounds exactly the same. Every voiceover uses the same fake American AI voice, reading from the same recycled script. Pretty much every video on TikTok actually sounds a little bit like Mel Gibson now, at least in my ears. And the moment we stop noticing that and caring about that, that's when creativity dies. And this is why Janine and her team at Inception Point are frankly fucking dangerous. Because the people who win at podcasting aren't the ones with the most gear or the best SEO or the flashiest editing even. They're the ones who feel something when they're talking to you. The ones who aren't afraid to say, yeah, do you know what? This didn't work. It's a bit crap. But here's what I learned from doing it. That's the kind of moment that no algorithm can fake. So if you're a creator thinking about AI optimizing your podcast, here's my general rule of thumb for you to follow that will hopefully keep you on the right side of the tracks on this. Use AI to enhance your process, not replace it. So, sure, let AI handle your transcripts, your show notes, your episode descriptions, etc., your repurposing. Yeah, great. But when it comes to the producing of the actual content through this mic thing, remember these 3 points. Rule 1, your voice is the most important aspect. So don't sanitize your quirks. If you got a weird laugh, strange accent, or you're incredibly blunt, hello, then that's your brand. It's what makes you real. Don't replace that with copy-paste voices. Rule 2, the value. Don't fill feeds with stuff. Say something that actually offers benefit to somebody. In an ideal world, your ideal listener. But even if that means one shorter, sharper episode, instead of a weekly barrage of waffle, that's always the best route. Rule 3 is vulnerability. Be human. Share what you think, even if it's a bit messy. In fact, especially if it's messy. That's what separates you from How to Make Money from Quiet Please podcasts, produced by Inception Point AI. I can help you make money. Sure you can, love. If you've been wondering whether your own podcast sounds a little too robotic, or you're not sure what's working and what's just filler, that's literally what I help people fix. You can book in now for one of my podcast audits. I listen, I diagnose, and I tell you exactly what's holding your show back, with no sugarcoating and no AI fluff. You'll find it at podmastery.co/light. That's podmastery.co/light. And if you're using AI to clone your own voice, then I suggest you book this immediately.
Podcasting experiments.
Here's your related experiment for this week. So we've just wanged on about how terrible what Inception Point AI is doing with their platform, Quiet Please. What I want you to do is pick one of your old episodes, something you're really proud of, then upload the transcript of that into an AI tool like ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever it is that you like, and ask it to rewrite this episode to sound more professional and polished. Then, and this is the key bit, record that version so that you can play it back to back with your original. And do that. Listen to them, one after the other. And I want you to make a note of these two things. Which one makes you feel something? Which one sounds like a person who's actually lived what they're saying? And that's the difference that you're looking to achieve with your podcast. If after listening to both versions, you think that ChatGPT's actually nailed it better, there's a hint that maybe what you're putting out there into the world isn't quite as good as you might think it is, and therefore you might want to look at some coaching. Here's the deal. AI will probably nail the structure, but it will never nail the soul. It will never nail the belief. It'll give you cleaner phrasing, but it won't help you with the micro hesitations and the rhythm of real thought. You know, there's off-the-cuff hmms that tell your listener you're human. And once you hear the difference, you'll never unhear it. That's the sound of trust. And you can't prompt that into existence.
Podcast feedback. Podcast feedback. Podcast feedback.
Every episode, I like to address some listener feedback, whether that's come in through email at podmastery.co/contact or via voicemail, podmastery.co/voicemail. This one is from James in Manchester, and again, when we don't have a voicemail, we do use AI for the voices of listeners. Here's James's email.
Hi Neil, loved your recent episode. Your podcast promotion strategy is in reverse, and it really hit me. I would been pouring energy into boosting on LinkedIn, buying ads, asking for reviews, but basically ignoring the fact that my show did not have a solid foundation first. Here is where I feel like I am stuck. It feels like I am promoting a show that is not quite ready. My messaging is muddled, and I am not sure who I'm talking to. But if I walk to fix all that, then I worry I'm going to lose momentum. What is your advice for someone caught in that promote versus refine trap? Keep doing this great work.
Well, James, you've nailed exactly the problem that most podcasters face, so thanks very much for writing and bringing this to my attention. Sounds like you're in that precarious middle, as I call it. So you're too far along to call it an experiment at this stage, but you're too early to call it a polished product. So here's how I see it and the advice I'd give you if you're one of my clients. First of all, map your core message. Before you push your podcast out into the world, are you able to sum it up in one crisp sentence that your listener will actually care about? What problem do you solve and who exactly is it for? Then set guardrails for your promotion. Decide in advance, I'm only going to promote when I have at least 3 episodes with coherent messaging, clear cover art, and a rough social media plan, and use that as your checkpoint. Use what I call momentum windows as well. Be smart about it. If you feel ready-ish, use some short bursts of promotion. Maybe a week of guest swaps, a couple of focused, clips for Meta and Google. Not a full launch campaign. Just get some feedback in to guide your next refinements. So don't pause it entirely. I'd say just don't spray the promotion randomly either. Use the data that you have to validate your direction. Sharpen your messaging and then promote with a bit more confidence, I would say. And I would say this, if you want me to look more in depth at your positioning, what you're doing to promote your show, and the actual content itself, that's exactly what I do in a podcast audit. So consider grabbing one of those if things don't improve for you. Thanks again, James. Well, thanks very much for listening. And here's what I want you to take away from this week's episode. AI isn't evil, it is efficient, but efficiency is the opposite of intimacy. And podcasting thrives on intimacy. So next time you're tempted to automate your voice, remember this rule of 3, which I mentioned to you earlier. Number 1, your voice. Be unmistakably you. Even if that means taking a bit longer to get that out into the world. Number 2, value. Offer it. Say something that matters more than it sells. Number 3, vulnerability. Show bits of yourself that robots would delete. That's how you stay human in a machine world. If this episode resonated with you and you think somebody you know might benefit from listening or watching, please do send them to podmastery.co. If you haven't yet, give us a follow in whatever your podcast app of choice is. And although they make absolutely no difference to the show's success, but they feel good, if you fancy leaving me a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, or any of the other platforms that allow you to leave comments, please do. I really appreciate it. Until the next episode, good luck continuing your journey to attaining Podmastery.
Podcasting inside.